Welcome to a battlefield of minds. Two grandmasters face off where every move cuts like a sword. One mistake, and it's over. This isn't just chess. It's war disguised as strategy. Let's dive in move by move into this epic clash. Wesley So pushes the e-pawn with 1. F4, grabbing central space boldly and setting the battlefield alight from move 120. Conrad Holt replies 1. On. Indo. Underdogs must be kind of storage the dia, and no one Tennessee. Essex, the French setup. A solid, cold shield, preparing counterplay, and closing central avenues cautiously. Wesley brings out 2 patties. D4, staking a claim in the center, and demanding Holt respond to mounting central pressure immediately. Conrad answers 2. Isenanedou, Aulikai. Ngian, Daniki. D. Confronting Wesley's center head-on, a classical pawn clash that promises tactical sparks and friction. Wesley develops 3. Pots Toy. ND2, protecting FR and keeping options flexible while hinting at maneuvering knights for future strikes. Conrad plays 3 die Petsin. NC. And even. And Demon Wangwen. Besaven. Modest development, ready to castle, and keep the king safe while waiting to see Wesley's plan. Wesley advances. 4 part. F5, pushing into enemy space, gaining tempo, and turning the position sharper, aggression that forces pieces to react. Conrad counters 4 pet 10. And Yunatauji on C5, striking at D4 to undermine Wesley's center and open lines for active counterplay and piece activity. Wesley solidifies with 5 trades. Key, shoring up D4 and preparing a patient but relentless build-up behind his central pawn chain. Conrad develops 5 Testian. Hen will know me, den Truan, den Tune, Homogestanib Chase. Insane, and Yaukis. Inguinitian. Den ist es so unbeste Bekendigen, und the mobile Tumen. Ng6, bringing a knight to pressure D4, and add support to the queenside fight, brewing after C5. Wesley plays 6. BD3, aiming the bishop at the king's side and increasing pressure on the weak and dark squares around Holt's position. Conrad responds 6 Tingmi. Inmo. Eisteni, umrunda 10 coordinates. Antimin. BD7, a defensive bishop placement that connects pieces and prepares to recapture or reroute if needed. Wesley maneuvers 7th port Tuan. Netwu, repositioning the knight to G3 or C3 later, flexible and stealthy, keeping tactical options alive. Conrad trades with 7 Can the US invested chemistry kennen, can der Stomodesen. Nenni Jolt, Naya? Nay. Cx4. Opening the C file and forcing clarity in the center, initiating piece exchanges to relieve pressure. Wesley recaptures 8 pointer. Cx4. Keeping central pawn presence and opening lines for bishops, game transitions into sharper middle game textures. Conrad pushes 8. P1 Onnen. Benning the way. Ennen. Enelkier. And even when a business sectan. And stole fullion at tonter. F6. A risky fist into the center to challenge a5 immediately, loosening kingside but aiming for counterblows. Wesley places 9. Nf3, bringing a knight toward the action and protecting key central squares while eyeing future tactics. Conrad captures 9 torch tall. Casting T. Annen. F6. F5. Opening lines and exposing kingside weaknesses, but grabbing material and attempting to equalize via activity. Wesley replies 10. Nix5. Recapturing with a knight, Wesley actively sacrifices presence to seize initiative and restore material balance. Conrad develops 10 poach des Entstination. Hisue. Nenni. Mus NC. Nf6. Completing kingside development and preparing to castle, while challenging Wesley's central knight on f5. Wesley castles. 11. King to safety and rooks connected, signaling readiness for full middle game combat and central breakthroughs. Conrad mirrors 11. Torchio. Andesezin. Anelis. Also tucking his king away. Both sides now face off with heavy pieces poised for a decisive clash. Wesley retreats 12. Nf4, a knight reroute toward g6 or e6 squares, aggressive repositioning to create tactical threats near black's king. Conrad plays 12 human. Pendisiwinrindis uncandelium. Neo Unin. Anternent. E8. Activating the rook along the open c-file and pressuring queenside pawns and potential c-file targets. Wesley centralizes. 13. Reone. Rook to the e-file, supporting a5 and coordinating pieces for an impending kingside offensive. Conrad strikes with 13. Under. Next 4. The knight jumps to d4, capturing a central pawn and provoking tactical complications in the center. Wesley responds 14. B2. Developing while eyeing the d4 knight and preparing to untangle his pieces for counterplay and pressure. Conrad follows 14 Onjimin. Elwe. BD6, bringing a bishop into the fray, aiming at kingside squares, and supporting tactical ideas against white's center. Wesley places 15. BC3, repositioning the bishop to pressure diagonal lines and threaten disruptions near black centralized pieces. Conrad replies 15 tortune. Andin die. Nandine monus sin, tanked bidden, and moldu gestashi. XFF, exchanging bishops and slicing into Wesley's structure to reduce attacking potential and simplify tense lines. Wesley plays 16. RxA5, recapturing energetically with the rook, seizing an open file, and keeping momentum while exposing black's kingside. Conrad answers 16 taunt. And was a sin Henshi Chan. Hinaji Moral Warness Seban, Tomei, Otwo, Yimantini. NG6, bringing a knight to support d4 and contest e5's influence, trying to consolidate it amid the tension. Wesley captures 17p. Nixus 6, a sharp tactical blow. The knight invades a6, taking material and ripping open black's kingside defenses spectacularly. Conrad accepts 17th. Njenden 10. And 2. Bx is 6, recapturing with the bishop and relieving immediate pressure, but leaving structural cracks and open lines. Wesley plays 18. Toil racing, in or winner decim and net hits, it tames C18. Arc C6. Sacrificing an exchange to intensify attack, rook plunges into enemy lines, utterly menacing around black's king. Conrad pushes 18, poach Yue, Penseu, Insiu. Andy Melman, Indiamasjes Yuen, Shastadasio. Andy Sen, Mo Wen, Pensage, Lisin. D4, counterattacking in the center to gain tempo and create counterchances, trying to blunt Wesley's sacrificial assault. Dend. Wesley retreats 19. BD2, regrouping his bishop to cover key squares and keeping attacking pieces coordinated for the next wave. Conrad plays 19. Tort Chuiumisin, Hepteptis, Chubisilmius Kente, Pentkikuktai. Entel Zai. Kiasunalwin, Indidan Penny, Indius Sejal. Edis. QD5, centralizing the queen to defend, trade if possible, and relieve pressure while eyeing counterattacking chances. Wesley replies 20, pendants. QA2, connecting heavy pieces, and preparing to bring more firepower into the fight around black's king. Conrad moves 20. Obanyal, Karanibin, and Giselle, Esteschuste, Enste, and den Chayan, Outcaste, Adadadinamuri. Antcons. Height, a subtle king shuffle to height, sidestepping tactics, and hoping to weather Wesley's mounting assault. Wesley advances, 21, Perch. b4. Expanding on the queenside to gain space and open more lines, keeping Conrad's pieces cramped and reactive. Conrad answers, 21, Pedagentioin. ND. Naintajani. Inumamel, here. a6. A prophylactic pawn push to blunt b5, stabilize queenside structure and slow white's expansion. Wesley plays, 22, Tara. a3. Solidifying the b4 pawn and preparing to push further, methodically tightening the noose around black's position. Conrad counters, 22. Elwanin. Hesel. Ast unknown. qb3. Queen probes b3 square, aiming at weaknesses, ready to harass white's position and seek tactical opportunities. Wesley develops, 23. Dejave pinning and menacing along the diagonal, increasing pressure and threatening tactical shots toward black's king. Conrad replies, 23. Andossi. Andant. Antinobon des Sienoriorden. Heptination. Hetia. Re c8. Doubling rooks on the e-file, to contest open lines and attempt to blunt white's attacking rook. Wesley sacrifices 24 tours. Eric's f6. A dramatic capture. Rook takes on f6, ripping open black's defenses and forcing chaos near the king. Conrad recaptures 24. Omanen. Is 7-9. Alawadaisin. And then Nedigesuun. A penny. Yeah. gxf6. Opening the g-file but worsening king's safety. Conrad accepts material costs to remove the invading rook. Wesley follows 25 Testi. bxf6. Bishop captures on f6 with check, a precise finishing touch that rips apart black's kingside cover. Conrad responds, 25. Pedadetsiunin Owen. Kian 25. Nilan Yi. Mean. Is Sauli Estia. As say. Aris f6. Rook takes back on f6, trading off attackers but leaving king more exposed and pieces disorganized. Wesley plays 26. qs8. Queen sacrifices into the fray with check, ripping open lines and demanding Holt find desperate defense. Conrad replies, 26. Initian, Henelwin, Histenasuruu. Onnen, Tadisuolden, Unvolnestanishi, Adan, Ditani. kd7, king steps to g7, escaping immediate checks but still dangerously close to open files and white's forces. Wesley plays 27. Penguin Minimersten. Careful. Queen centralizes, threatening deadly discoveries and coordinating major pieces for a final decisive assault. Conrad replies, 27. Penned. Eastern. Undercity. rg6. Rook swings to g6, trying to defend the back rank and cover key squares around his king. Wesley presses with 28. Qf3, queen eyes g4 in kingside tactics, tightening the net and forcing black into passive defense. Conrad answers 28. Ins. Inelin. Penediwin. Re6. Rook attempts to blockade and trade down, seeking to relieve pressure by simplifying heavy pieces. Wesley probes 29. Test ein. Hemodis anania. Qg4e. Queen checks on g4, a piercing move that increases tension and seeks to exploit black's exposed king immediately. Conrad retreats 29. Enenai. Annen. Unmazonus. Height. King to height again, shuffling to avoid checks while white's forces encircle like predators. Wesley pushes 30. A4. A pawn thrust to open lines, threaten g5 g6 squares, and prepare to amplify pressure against Conrad's weakened kingside. Duisil. Conrad plays 30. Nent. Den. Re7. Rook retreats to a7, attempting to consolidate and guard critical files amid the storm. Wesley centralizes 31. Tenuirint. B4. Bishop lands on e4, menacing diagonals and coordinating with queen and rooks for a lethal mating net. Conrad responds 31. Ndiwan. Enana. D3. Pawn storms forward to create counterplay and block lines, trying to complicate matters and distract white. Wesley returns 32. Qf3. Queen repositions to f3, keeping pressure on the kingside and preparing decisive threats against black's fragile camp. Conrad reacts 32. Andanen. Inyao. Pastelmen das Chivan. Andian. Anau. Ah. Nintonan dibe. Inya zepod guy. He's even. Rook to c7, aiming to guard and potentially contest d-file, while trying to keep last defenses intact. Wesley plays 33. Ardone. Rook to dun, occupying the open file and aligning heavy pieces for a collapsing final combination. Conrad replies 33. Anapundai. Anannan. Nefiv. Knight jumps to a5, challenging white center and hoping to exchange to lessen incoming threats. Wesley replies 34. Qf6. Queen checks from f6, a thunderous invasion that forces black's pieces to shuffle and capitalizes on exposed king. Conrad plays 34. Nizioadam, Henio Toloyan, and Chimenston, as a Tinidabakali. Indian Standan. Rg7. Rook moves to g7, shielding the back rank and desperately trying to block mating patterns before collapse. Wesley brings 35 to the T. Our cone, rook to cone, activating the remaining heavy piece, and eyeing chicks and back rank themes with lethal intent. Conrad answers 35. Pair. N10. Endemite. NGX. Knight retraces to chicks, to cover vital squares, and to seek trades that might defuse white's attack. Wesley captures 36. BSK. Bishop takes. On chicks removing a defender, and opening decisive lines, the position starts to crack wide open. Conrad recaptures 36. Midgame. Antoine. Police. BX teachings. Pawn recapture leaves black with fractured structure, but temporarily removes the active bishop from the battlefield. Wesley plays 37. Pendelreal intelligence fictionen Panster. RXC cheeks. Rook captures on cheek siding material and infiltrating black's camp. White's pieces swarm with violent intent. Conrad responds 37. Pens. England. Winnen. Alliance. Clean checks. From Dunn. Trying to sow counter threats and hope for tactical resources to survive the onslaught. Wesley moves 38. Pectin pair, but Sibian inventor, in a stone Sirene. H2O. King steps to H2, avoiding checks and keeping the white king safe while maintaining the attacking formation. Conrad replies 38. Plus. Nin. Inne. Queen invades G4 to harass and try swapping off attackers, but threats against his king remain lethal. Wesley plays 39. Key 3. Pawn shields back rank and prepares to blunt queen checks while maintaining momentum for the decisive finish. Conrad moves 39. 30. Danning, and moi, ani, ain't he? K8, king to gate, shuffling away from immediate threats but still perilously close to white's coordinated forces. Wesley strikes 40 morning in the end. Q diet, queen lance on date, with devastating check, slicing into the heart of Conrad's position and forcing mate sequences. Conrad replies 40 tist. Undanen. Nindium Jainen. KF7, king to Fezen, tries to flee, but walks into tighter nets as white's pieces converge with predatory precision. Wesley finishes 41. Pet 10. RF6 hash. Rook delivers. Shocking mate on F6. A clean cinematic finish as Conrad's defenses collapse under lethal coordination. The video ends here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thank you again, everyone. See you in the next video.